important because it studies that. And as a native speaker, it says that we are not aware of that because native speaker produce languages naturally. We were talking. But when you start studying a new language, then you have to pay attention to this. As a native speaker of some language, you know which string of words correspond to this sentence in your language and which don't. That is constituents. As a native speaker, you know what words can form units, what words can form constituents, what words can go together. Permissible syntactic combination. That's the word in your language, because nobody teaches you that. Syntax is a name of subfield of linguistics that study this component. Syntax studies constituents. Constituents means what? What do we say? What is a constituent?
Is
A group of
words that
function.
I think phrases and clauses.
in a unit, something like this.
A group of words that function together as a unit. What is a constituent?
The group of words.
A group of words that function together as a unit. The whole thing about the book of Carney, syntax book, this syntax, is about constituents. Because when we combine what syntactic combinations are possible or permissible, those syntactic combinations that are possible or permissible in English, in French, in Spanish, those are constituents. What words function together as a unit? When you know what words can be put together to form a unit, you represent that in a tree.
Professor, a question. Can a word itself be a constituent or not?
Yeah. A word can be a constituent. A word can be a constituent. When we are going to draw the trees, what we are going to show in the trees is hierarchies. Hierarchies. And then back in the 80s, 85, 86, even 70s, 60s, you didn't see any hierarchy in drawing trees. Now, with this X bar, which is just a notation that I'm going to explain in chapter number 4, you are going to learn that is the whole purpose of the X bar theory is binary, forming binary branching. Just two binary, not many like in other books that you see. Multiple branches is not permissible because the whole purpose is to show. But there are, for example, words that function as a noun phrase. For example, John is a teacher. John is a noun phrase. He is a teacher, is a verb phrase. And that noun phrase have one constituent. What is the constituent? John, one word. That does not mean that you cannot have the other branch that is not present, is there, it's still activated there, but not present. For example, the girl is a teacher. Now, girl is a constituent, but the girl for another constituent, you see? And then the is a determiner. And then you put those, the girl, and you put those constituents together, and you form a noun phrase. Answer to your question, yes. You can form a constituent using one word.
No, yeah. I asked the question because in the first definition you mentioned it's a group of words together to form it, but it can be like it's a word or a group of words.
Maybe that is the first approximation, but later in the chapter number 3, we will see that a general a word or group of words.
Okay, thank you.
Chapter number 6. If you read the book at home, pay attention because chapter number 3 start with constituents. Chapter number 3. And then chapter number 3 is going to start giving you some background of how to form constituents and how you are going to structure those phrases, and that is good. But in chapter number 6 is when you are going to learn how to draw trees using X bar notation. Chapter number 6. But it is important for you to read the Carney book, because what I want, and I asked Melissa and other students to give me some words, for example, that we are going to use in this course that you have to manage. Don't forget definitions. Important to manage definition in syntax. And pay attention to definitions. But definitions are very important, like the definition of constituents, because everything is related to that. And let's see what else do we have here. The construction of sentences is not a trivial matter. If you take a moment to consider it, you will realize that it is impossible to take just any bunch of English words, jumble them together in random order, and get an actual sentence in English. No. You need to know. And then native speaker, like Chomsky said, have a hardwired system in their head that we are able to create sentences instinctively, like Steven Pinker said. Language Instinct is a book in which Steven Pinker speaks about language, and he claims that that is innate to human. Only certain combination of words actually counts as sentences of English. Certain combination. At the same time, it's true of all natural languages. As native speaker, we know what words can go together. And when we know what words can go together, we have another word that we need to know the definition, which is grammatical judgment. Do you know what is a grammaticality judgment? Let me see if we have this here.
It's like when you argue about something that you think that is wrong or correct.
Grammaticality judgment. That's another thing. Please underline those things.
Okay.
Grammaticality judgment is there. Do you see the word? Grammaticality judgment. Let me put it bigger. Okay. And that, now it's grammaticality judgment. So maybe I don't know something and I don't speak Spanish very well. And then you are the expert in Spanish, so I'm going to ask you, hey, do you think this is correct? This sentence is correct? And we make that. That is a grammaticality judgment. It's a reflection of speaker's mental grammar, conscious knowledge of prescriptive rule. Native speakers of a given language are uniquely qualified to decide whether a string of words truly form a sentence of their native language. As Spanish speaker, we know what string of words can go together, what string of word or words, like constituents. Then you can make grammatical judgment. And we do that sometimes. Let's go back here. But how do you know which combination of words are sentences and which are not? You see, when we talk about syntax, the definition, we are referring to constituents every time. When we talk about combination of words, word or words, because in chapter number 6, they are going to make that distinction, then those are constituents. How are languages similar, and how do they differ from with respect to sentence construction? These are the kind of questions that statisticians try to answer, and that you will become familiar with in this file. This is file number 5. File number 5 from the book from Ohio University. In this file, file 5.1 talk about, this is basic idea, what is syntax, syntactic properties. We're going to talk about syntactic properties that we have. What are the syntactic properties that we have? let's see. Basic ideas of syntax. I'm gonna make it bigger. Basic ideas of syntax. As I am scrolling this down, I want you to pay special attention to the article. 5.0, what is syntax? 5.0. After 5.0, what you have? 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.1. Look at the order. They are using Linguistic Society of America. Order. Now, if you have 5.1, basic idea of syntax, well, some basic ideas, 5.1.1 refers to this. The first thing we're going to talk, and then see, this is the Linguistic Society of America. The article is written using LSA. Grammaticality and ungrammaticality. Another important concept that we need to know. What is grammaticality and what is ungrammaticality? Who wants to read? Because I'm tired.
Ungrammaticality. Syntax is the component of grammar that deals with how words and phrases are combined into larger phrases. Words. Okay.
How words and phrases. Again, you see, but Dr. Castillo, right?
Yes.
Again, maybe I could add words, and phrases, right? But there is how words, but maybe you can add words. Yeah, I agree with you. I combine into larger. Again, if we read that, that is the meaning of what? Constituent. Constituents is the backbone of this course. Everything is related to that. But sometimes we don't pay attention to that and we hear that word, constituent. I don't care about constituent. In 1 hour, you forget about constituent. You finish grammar book or grammar course, you don't care about constituent till you have to teach syntax. Remember, people, study and read this because this first class is reading. Maybe in the afternoon, we are going to practice something related to prescriptive and descriptive. But then the other is more practice, but we need to read. Reading and practice is the combination that we have to first construct background information about words. For example, Doctor, go on.
Worked. Example, Bob cake out, and phrases, example, out of the window, my cake, Bob ate my cake, are all linguistic expressions. A linguistic expression is just a piece of language. It has a certain form, example, what it sounds like, a certain meaning, and most relevantly, some syntactic property as well.
Let's see, because in syntax you have to analyze a certain meaning and most relevantly some syntactic properties. What is the question that comes to your mind when you read that piece of text that you have to understand? What question could you ask yourself if you read a linguistic expression is just a piece of language? It has a certain form, a certain meaning, and most relevantly, some syntactic properties. Well, I think syntactic properties. What is syntactic properties? You see? We have learned what is a constituents, right? We have learned what is grammaticality judgment. What else? Now we are going to learn about syntactic, and then please start creating your own vocabulary. Syntactic properties now. Let's see what is syntactic properties in the reading. We have 1, 2, 3 words. Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay, these syntactic These syntactic properties determine how the expression can combine with other expressions. To rephrase slightly, syntax is broadly concerned with how expressions combine with one another to form larger expressions. Some combinations are successful, others are not. For example, we can all agree that Sally, Bob, and likes are English expressions. Presumably, we can also agree that 1A
1A,
is
example.
is a sentence of English. Well, 1B is not.
Okay, okay.
Sally likes
Okay,
Bob and likes Bob Sally.
excellent. My question is, this is a Linguistic Society of America style, the paper. So you have to pay attention to the paper. And then Sally likes Bob is grammatically correct, right? It's okay. But likes Bob Sally is ungrammatically. Ungrammatical. What does this mean? This asterisk here. What is the meaning of that asterisk? Asterisk. The asterisk says that the symbol, that asterisk here, we call it ungrammatical. When in some string of words does not form a sentence, we call it ungrammatical and mark it with the symbol, this symbol, as 1B. So whenever you see that symbol in a sentence, that means that is ungrammatical. Is that, did you know that or no? Well, now you know. Okay, go ahead, doctor.
We can ask then why is it that arranging the same three English expressions in one way results in a sentence, see 1A, while combining them in a different way does not, see
Okay.
example 1B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. That is important. Why three simple words combined makes a sentence that is grammatically, but if I switch the order, then it's ungrammatical.
It is
And then
because
we
we
mark.
have to follow the SB order, Professor.
Okay, what is SVO? That is important. And SVO, that is important because syntactic properties. I was asking, syntactic properties is divided in two aspects. And the first aspect is word order. Word order. English is SVO. And then sometimes it's a secular because when you ask questions, you switch. And then we are going to see. So pay attention to syntactic properties. And then the first subdivision of syntactic properties is word order. So word order is important. And then let's see if we can find the other aspect of syntactic property. Go ahead, doctor. Doctor.
When a string of words really does form a sentence of some language, we say it is grammatical in that language. If some strings of words does not form a sentence, we call it ungrammatical and mark it with a symbol, as in 1B above. When a sentence is grammatical, we say that it is syntactically well formed. If it is ungrammatical, we also refer to it as syntactically ill formed.
Okay, syntactically well formed and syntactically ill formed are those, add those words to the vocabulary. Because I'm using the Ohio, but I'm going to compare these copies with the copy of the other author is Andrew Carney. Syntactically well formed. So syntactically ill formed, well formed versus syntactically ill formed. But when we have a sentence that is syntactically well formed, we don't use that symbol that is ungrammatical. But when it's syntactically ill formed, we use that symbol. But what happens if we have a sentence that is semantic ill form? Linguistic symbols, syntactic and semantic. Okay. Let's see. Zoom. Now I learned how to use Zoom. Syntactic and semantic. A very common symbol to start with this symbol. It means this is not grammatical sentence. Okay, it's the same as the book. I'm just googling it. But this is strictly used to mark grammaticality, like in 1 and 2. Who is this? This the book which you gave to that is not grammatical, it's ill form. It is syntactically ill form. And number 2 is also syntactically ill form, and the 3 and 4 are syntactically well formed. But the how do you call this symbol in English? This symbol is pragmatically or semantically weird. Semantically or pragmatically or semantically weird, because maybe you can see this symbol in a sentence. But there is a difference between this symbol and the other, which is ungrammatical. In semantic, because we are going to talk about semantic, they are the bastard Derek. It's okay, but that's not true. July Derek, but it must be raining, and then we have this symbol, and this symbol means something is pragmatically weird or semantically. Semantically weird is this one. Syntactically weird is the other one. Let's see. So we are going to maybe we are going to use 2 symbols, and then you can see that symbol in Carney books too. The first is syntactically is this one. Semantically is the other one. Semantically you can read it, but it's weird. Syntactically is the sentence arrangement is not correct. That's what I wanted to emphasize. So add those symbols. The symbol for semantic ill form and the other symbol for syntactic ill form. Are you following me? Do you understand what I mean? You have to add 2 symbols, because sometimes you can see those symbols in front of the sentence, and you immediately know that if you see this symbol that is here, this is syntactic. The structure is not correct. Semantic is the meaning is not correct. It's weird. Okay, who else? Do you want to continue, Dr. Castillo, to see?
Oh, maybe a classmate can continue.
You see, it's not easy, right? You get tired immediately. Who wants to cooperate, please?
Castillero.
Castillero, go ahead. Native speakers.
Okay, the native speakers of a given language are uniquely qualified to decide whether a string of words truly forms a sentence of their native language. That is, to make grammatical judgment. A grammatical judgment is a reflection of speakers' mental grammar and not a test of their conscious knowledge of the prescriptive rules. Let me continue?
Yeah.
So although the sentence we are going to quickly wrap up this paragraph and move on the next 5 violates the prescriptive rules, do not split infinitives, we nonetheless consider it grammatical. When making a grammatical judgment about some strings of words, ask yourself whether you could author the string in question, whether you have ever heard it altered, and whether you know or can imagine other native speakers of the same language who will utter it. Do not worry about whether the string in question complies with prescriptive rules.
Okay, this that we are talking about prescriptive and descriptive. But sometimes because this we are going to quickly wrap up this paragraph and move on to the next file. Even though it violates the prescriptive rule, it's correct for native speaker, but it violates the prescriptive rule that says do not split infinitive. It's prescriptively wrong, but descriptively accepted. And then when I ask the question for linguists, they use more, or then it's more important how people speak. Not, do you understand? Prescriptive is rules, but linguists go to the field of language to see how people speak, and they start studying the language. That is descriptive language, because they know the prescriptive, but they want to know what is the descriptive way of speaking. And in the USA or any English speaking country, we are going to quickly wrap this paragraph and move on to the next file. Is completely acceptable, but is prescriptive. Not correct, but it's acceptable. Like in Spanish, we have many sentences that we accept and we see as properly well formed, but they are ill formed prescriptively speaking. If you study Spanish, for example, if I go to the Spanish school, even though I speak Spanish, I don't know prescriptive rules of my language. I tend to make a lot of mistakes in Spanish, even though I'm a native speaker. The same happens with a native speaker of English. But communication is descriptively. When you write academic paper, is prescriptive. So both of them are important. Speaking to your friends, you don't speak prescriptively, you speak descriptively. When you are going to make a research and you are going to communicate with your audience are going to be academics, professors, then you have to be careful how you write. In university levels, then you have to use to attach to prescriptive rules. So that is a game. That depends where you are. The relationships between syntax and semantics is very important. That's why I was asking you to see what is semantic ill form and what is syntactic ill form sentence, the symbols. Okay, and then we have 5.2. One more student who wants to read, please. But let's see what is the relationship between syntax and semantic.
All right, I can do it.
Okay.
The relationship between syntax and semantics, along with distinguishing between the prescriptive and the descriptive concept of grammaticality, we also need to distinguish between syntax and semantics, which is concerned with linguistics meaning. These two subject areas are not completely independent of one another. In a way, the purpose of assembling sentences and other phrases is to communicate more complex meaning that we could if we use individual words. This is because the way in which expressions are syntactically combined with one another contributes to the meaning of the resulting sentence. Consider the following pair of English sentences. A. Sally likes Bob. B. Bob likes Sally.
What happened there? What do you notice if I ask? Sally like Bob and Bob like Sally. What do you see there in those two examples?
The semantic meaning probably changes, Professor. However, the grammatical order is the same.
Okay, let's see. Yes. Go ahead, read, please. See.
All right. Sentence 2A doesn't mean the same thing as 2B. However, both of these sentences contain exactly the same expressions. Sally, Bob, Sally, and likes, whose meaning are exactly the same in each of the sentence above. The crucial differences between 2A and 2B lies in how these expressions are syntactically combined. It is a different syntactic combinations that produce the different meaning.
Okay, interesting. And that's why the relationship between syntax and semantic, syntax structure, semantic meaning, but the same words are, if you arrange the same words in different order, completely change the semantic meaning. And then the what we said about syntactically or syntactic properties, and then we are going to talk about this in the next paragraph. Go ahead. In English.
In English, we often call expression that usually occurs immediately to the left of the verb its subject, and the one that occurs immediately to the right of the verb, if any, its object. One way to explain the syntactic differences between 2A and 2B is to say that in 2A, Bob is the object of likes and Sally is subject of likes, while in 2B, those relations are switched. Sally is the object of likes, while Bob is the subject. The difference in syntactic combinations of likes, Sally, and Bob to account for their difference in meaning.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the meaning of a sentence depends on the meaning of the expressions it contains and how the way they are syntactically combined is called the principle of compositionality.
Mm-hmm. Principle of compositionality.
The principle of compositionality underlies the design feature of productivity. When you know a language, you can produce and understand an infinite number of sentences because you know the meaning of the lexical expressions. For example, words, and you know its consequences that the different ways of syntactically combining them will have on the meaning of larger multi-word phrasal expressions. As a result, even though all languages have a finite lexicon, they all allow for the construction of an infinite number of meaningful sentences. In this sense, syntax and semantics are intimately related.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. The relationship between them. And then we have a good example of colorless green ideas sleep furiously from Chomsky. Is another sense. In another sense, however, syntax and semantic are quite independent from one another because colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Chomsky said that even though this is syntactically correct, it is bizarre. It's bizarre, the meaning. It's syntactically well formed. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Syntactically well formed. But the meaning is not clear.
Semantically ill formed.
And then if we want to talk in syntactic terms, we need to start doing our vocabulary number one. Is semantic, syntactically well formed, semantic ill formed, because if you start listening to lectures in linguistics, they are going to use this terminology. So this is why I'm asking you to read and take notes of the new expression that you are learning. When you hear syntactically well formed, maybe if you don't study syntax, you get lost. If you listen semantic or syntactic ill formed or well formed, maybe if you use they use constituent or grammaticality judgment, and then you get lost. And that's why we are reading. But let's see what else do they have here. This sentence seems to mean something quite strange. Colorless things cannot be green. Ideas are not the kind of thing that sleep, and it is not clear that sleeping is the kind of activity that can be carried out in a furious manner. However, syntactically speaking, this is perfectly grammatical sentence. If you're having trouble appreciating its syntactic well-formedness, compare it with number 4. And in number 4, we have this symbol, and that symbol means what? I forgot. What is the meaning of that symbol? That symbol means that it's syntactically ill-formed, green, sleep, colorless, furiously idea. Wow. That is syntactically ill-formed. Sentence 3 may mean something strange, but 4 is just plain garbage. On the other hand, sometimes a non-sentence can successfully convey a perfectly reasonable meaning. Suppose you have a college friend who is not a native speaker of English and occasionally make errors. One day your friend comes to you and excitedly exclaims, "Me but duck. Me but duck." What happened there is practically ill-formed. But me but duck, you probably have no problem figuring out the meaning of your friend or what he was trying to express, semantically speaking. What is ill-formed? Prescriptive, not correct. Recognize merely that 5 is not syntactically well-formed in English. You might even refer it to something like, I bought a dog. I bought a dog. And then this is thus possible both for sentence to express strange meaning and non-sentence to convey ordinary meaning as in fact. There is another way in which syntax is independent of semantic. What is that other way? The syntax properties of expression cannot be predicted or explained on the basis of the expression meaning. Consider the following part of English verb, eat and devour. Eat and devour. What is the meaning of eat? Is comer. Devour in Spanish is, I think, is devorar. But they mean approximately the same thing in that they both refer to the activity of consuming food. The meaning. But syntactically, they have very different uses. Many native speakers agree with the following pattern of grammaticality judgment. 7a, Sally ate an apple. B, Sally devoured an apple. Both of them are what? Correct. But if I say Sally ate, it's correct. Sally ate. But if I say Sally devoured, what happened with Sally devoured? It's not correct. While both eat and devour can occur with an object, like in 7a and b, they can occur with an object both. It does not require one. It can occur without an object. But A-B, devour, on the other hand, must occur with an object. If you do not have an object in the board, it's incorrect. So, although these two verbs are very similar in meaning, because those verbs are very similar in meaning, in syntax, they behave totally different. The syntactic properties, in other words, are different. So we have two. 1, 2. This is another. So pay attention to that. 1 and 2. Here is another example. Both mine and mine intuitively mean the same thing, mine and mine. That is, they describe the relationship of possession between the speaker and something else. However, in example 9, this dog is mine, shows their syntactic behavior is different. Let's see. This is mine dog. This dog is mine. This dog is mine. And then here, this is my dog. Two of them are syntactically ill-formed and two of them are. This fact would be puzzling. It's confusing if we assume that meaning determines the syntactic property of words. The meaning mine and mine. That is because maybe in chapter number, let me see, chapter number 3, we're going to talk about this theta rules, theta grid. These facts would be puzzling if we assume that meaning determines the syntactic property of word. If we acknowledge that words have syntactic property distinct and independent from the meaning, the syntax difference between mine and mine is not surprise. Further, if we assume that meaning determines the syntactic property of expression, we would not expect to see any syntactic difference across language. Hannah has a dog and Hannah has a dog. Let's see, what are the syntactic properties? The first syntactic property is word order. Let's move here. Word order. In English, word order is SVO. Word order is perhaps one of the most obvious aspects of syntactic well-formedness in English. Sentence, the subject typically precedes the verb, while objects follow them, as shown in 1a. Sally walk, you cannot say walk Sally. Sally ate an apple, Sally an apple ate, different. Ate Sally an apple, ate, no. This word order pattern in which subject precedes verb, which in turn precedes object, is referred to SVO. This is the first syntactic property, word order. About 35% of the world's languages have this word order pattern, SOV. Pattern is even more common than SVO, and represented 44% of language, which Korean and Turkish typically show SOV, subject, object, verb, order. And about 19% of languages, include Arabic and Irish, have verb, subject, object, word order. And when we are going to study language, we need to take into account the syntactic property, and word order is important. Studying a language, not just Spanish, or maybe Spanish, if you write an article in Spanish and you want to show this kind of examples or aspect of language, you use this, like in this example, in Malagasy, example of sentence from Malagasy. VOS astronaut language spoken in Madagascar. Manasa lamba amini saboni nai lehilahi. What you see here in 3 is the language that they are studying, which is Malagasy. How many words do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is an example of Malagasy, but we don't speak Malagasy. I don't understand Malagasy. I understand the English version of that sentence. But what do you notice in the second line? Because we have to comprehend the text. What do you notice in the second line? The first line, we have the language, which is Malagasy, could be French, could be German, could be Spanish, could be English. But in this case, it's Malagasy. But the first line is the language, Malagasy. The second line, what do you notice?
That it goes OVS.
In the second line, you notice that there is a word by word correspondent. Word by word. Manasa means what? Washes. Lamba means what? Clothes. Amini means what? With the. Saboni means soap. Ni means that. And lehilahi means man. Now, I have to put those things together in the third line to form the sentence or the corresponding meaning in English. But what do you notice here? You notice 2 symbols. One symbol here. What is the first symbol you notice at the very beginning and at the very end? I don't know how to call this symbol because they are not quotation marks. Quotation mark have 2, right? This just have 1. Do you see that? Okay, 300 is a lot. Do you see that? And that is important, even for you to teach linguistics to students in 3rd year. Because most of us, what we do when we study language, when we write a paper studying, for example, any language, French, German, let's say African languages or whatever, what we do is we put the sentence in Malagasy. And next to Malagasy, we use parentheses and we put the what? The meaning. It doesn't help. Because if I am Japanese, I'm not going to understand the meaning. I have to see the correspondence first. Second line, word by word correspondence. And then in the third line, the meaning. And that is known in linguistics as basic Leipzig glosing rules. And I don't know if you know the Leipzig glosing rules in linguistics. And here you have just 10 pages, wonderful pages, because I am showing these copies and asking you to read because I am showing that copy have Linguistic Society of American style, and second, and we are learning about this example because this example teaches us something. Teaches us that when we have linguistic papers, like in the other book that we are going to read later, which is Carney, we have examples like this. All linguists use this example. Linguists don't use like manasa, lamba, ami, saboni, mai, and then parentheses, and then the meaning. No. Leipzig glosing rules have been developed jointly by the Department of Linguistics of the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, Bernard and Martin Hasselmann, by the Department of Linguistics, University of Leipzig, blah, blah, blah. These rules are intended to reflect common usage, and only very few innovations are proposed, common use. In linguistics, for example, here we have, they consist of 10 rules for the syntax and semantics of interlinear glosses. Interlinear glosses. These are glosses. Interlinear glosses that the author is showing. The rules cover a large part of linguistics needs in glossing text, but most authors will feel the need to add certain conventions, blah, 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 blah. Okay, when you are going to study or you are going to teach linguistics, you need to be familiar with the Leipzig rules. Let's see, rule number 1. Let me see if I can. How can I make it bigger? Preamble. Rule number 1. To my students in, I think, was second year, third year student, when they write a paper, I ask them to use a rule 1 and 2. Rule 1 and 2, just rule 1 and 2, but we have more. We have many rules. Rule 1 and 2 is enough for us because when we are going to bring a different language or example, how can I make it smaller? Here, interlinear glosses are left aligned vertically, word by word, with the examples. Interlinear glosses are left aligned, vertically, word by word with example. Example, Indonesian. This is Indonesian language. We don't speak Indonesian. It's not done in 1996. And then we have 1, 2, 3 lines, like exactly like in the book. Here are the example. Mereka di Jakarta sekarang. I don't know what is it. But the second line is going to show me the word by word alignment, word by word. So mereka means what? They. Di means what? In. Jakarta means what? Jakarta. And sekarang means what? Now. What is the meaning? Then you see immediately the same symbol here, the same symbol here. And the meaning is what? They are in Jakarta now. If we are going to make an script, we need to know Leipzig rules because you cannot come here or write internationally speaking and say mereka di Jakarta sekarang, and then put in parentheses, and then parentheses, they are in Jakarta now. It doesn't help anybody because we need to know what is the word by word alignment and correspondence. And that's what we see in this book, in this page. The same thing. This is an example of Leipzig rule. And you can make it word by word. It's enough. That's a rule number 1. I think this one is made word by word. This is this one. But rule number 2, you can also use morpheme by morpheme corresponding. Segmentable morpheme are separated by hyphen, both in the example and in the gloss. by hyphen. Segmental morpheme are separated by hyphen, both in the example and in the gloss. There must be exactly the same number of hyphens in the example and in the gloss. Glee, that is lesbian. Lesbian, maybe. No, I have no idea why it's lesbian. But the example is this. Hila, abur, So if you use morpheme by morpheme and you see hyphens in the first one, Gila, abur, means now, abur means they, this is oblique and genitive, ferma, farm, hamasiluk is forever, bungo behind, amak, amuk, dak, amuk, stay, future, and negative. And the meaning is this, now their farm will not stay behind forever. Which is easier for you, number one or number two? One is easier. That's why the book is using number one for international students. This book is for international students. They use one. But if you are studying linguistics, you go to study abroad, to Germany, to United States, or whatever, you have to apply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah, 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 all the rules in a paper. So you have to be familiar with all the rules and the abbreviations. What are the abbreviations? Ablative, absolutive, accusative, adjective, adverbial, agreement, adjective, antipassive, applicative, blah, 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 blah. And then you have here dative, declarative, all the abbreviation, demonstrative, genitive, imperative. And this is to help you to describe. Okay. So I'm going to share this. Oh, you can download that Leipzig rules online because choosing you have learned. LSA, Linguistic Society of America, the way you have to arrange. And other is what? If you are going to write about any language, French or whatever, you are going to explain to me the word order, because I don't know what is the word order of French, and you come here to explain me what is the word order of French, you have to use the Leipzig rules. Leipzig glossing rule. Okay? Any question? That Leipzig glossing rule in third year, I think, third year of the BA, they start studying some of linguistics. And so when they are going to make presentations, then this is the way I want you to present examples. First, what is the language? It's French. Second line is the example in French. That is the first, right? First line. Second line is word by word corresponding. What is the meaning of each one? And then the third line, you use that special symbol and the meaning. And then they start explaining. And then you see more here. SVO. Word order is the first syntactic property, and the other syntactic property of language. You see, word order is important here, and then you can read more. The other important syntactic property is what? Co-occurrence. So write that one. Co-occurrence. The question is, what is co-occurrence? Co-occurrence is another syntactic property. So in order to answer the question, we have to what? As Chomsky, I think it's Chomsky, reading is important. If we don't read, we cannot go and draw trees because I want to draw trees. No. First, please, the definition. And then if we are going to use arguments in the sentences, I need to know what is an argument in a sentence. And I need to know what is the difference between an argument, complement, what is an action, which is the other one. I think it should be here. I made a copy to the action. Action, yes, B, action. What is an action? Is an argument. And How many arguments can we have in a sentence? If I say that this sentence is, the verb is, let's say the verb is transitive, and we also have intransitive verb. How many arguments have an intransitive sentence example? How many arguments have a transitive example? And how many arguments have a ditransitive sentence example? That's what we have to come up if we read this last piece of copy, then we will have an idea of that. And I don't know, you're tired. Are you tired, people? I'm tired.
Yes, a little bit, Professor.
I am tired.
Of course
And
we are.
Just to let you know, Professor, we were supposed to start class at 9 and we start at 11 and we start again at 1.
Oh, people, I forgot about negotiating. I forgot about negotiating. I am hungry and tired. You know, Dr. Castillo is very hard to read and explain. But this reading, this book is very easy to read. But the other one, Andrew Carnegie, is very hard to read and understand. That's why I'm showing this first to make your life happy. But then the next one is going to be. But then again, people, first and second chapter, you have to build definition, vocabulary, and then from chapter 3 on, it's going to be easier for us because practice. But this is
question. I would like to know if there are some similarities with Morenberg's book. That was the one that we use in grammar.
No. Morenberg book is another version. Morenberg book is grammar, and Morenberg uses linear parsing. That is known as parsing.
Okay.
Parsing is when you use linear analysis of a sentence, which is nice, but it's nice, and if you studied Morenberg book, grammar Morenberg is very nice. It's very nice because at least I know that you have a background when we are going to go to syntax. But syntax is another thing, especially X-partial. Why I am doing this? It looks like boring to read, people. It's boring to read. But reading looks boring, but builds a foundation. Believe me, if you go to the USA right now, the professor is not going to do what I'm doing. Reading this and digesting this with you. No. But what my purpose is to build what? Vocabulary. And let me know if you know this thing, then I can move to the another. If you know what is an argument, let me know. If you know what is an action, let me know. If I ask to you, how many arguments does a transitive verb have? Do you know that?
No idea.
Then that's why it is important to read. Because when I'm going to talk in chapter number 3 about argument, and when I'm going to talk about chapter number 8, thematic role, theta grid, and theta criterion, you should know what I'm talking about when I say argument, valency, adjuncts. Those are syntactic terminology that you don't see in a grammar book. Now, my question is, do you think syntax is boring or is interesting?
Interesting.
For me, it's interesting.
It's going to become more because this is the boring chapter. Chapter 1. Maybe I have to consider changing this, but I cannot change chapter 1 because even the book, even in the United States, I think in the syllabus that we saw, Washington University, they have chapter number 1 preliminary. Chapter 1 preliminary is important because it gives you what? The foundations. Chapter number 2. So I strongly encourage you to read chapter 1 and 2. Are you going to read chapter 1 and 2 under your Carnegie book or no?
Yes.
Please do that. that can save us time. People, let's finish with argument and adjoint. Let's finish. I know you are tired, I'm tired, but let's finish. What is an argument? I want to know what is an argument. I don't want to go to it without knowing what an argument is. Argument is not fighting in syntax. Or if you tell me, no, professor, we prefer to take a break, I understand. What do you say?
How is the afternoon session going to be? What are we going to do? What is the schedule?
The afternoon session, I have a homework. It's going to be a practice, but first I ask, please, first we have to read chapter 1 to make the practice. And it's about prescriptive and descriptive. It looks like very simple practice. I'm going to give you sentences that looks correct, but they are not correct. And maybe they are prescriptively unacceptable, but descriptively acceptable. And that's what we can do. But before doing that practice, we have to finish reading chapter 1, at least to read chapter 1. In the afternoon session, my question is, at what time do we finish? I mean, used to finish the courses. And at what time do you start the afternoon session? And at what time do we finish? Because I didn't negotiate that with you. From 9 to 11 is morning, right?
Yeah.
Yes, professor.
9 to 11. And then afternoon?
From 1 to 3.
From 1 to 3.
2 hours.
2 hours. Well, 1 hour to quickly read Carney. Copy. Not to read, to scan. To scan the most important thing, okay? And then to see what do we have there that we don't know. What do we have there that we don't know? Some special vocabulary. And then after that is going to be solved at home. No, at home. No. In class. So in class, assign. That's it. And then we finish. And then we finish with this. We should finish with chapter 1 because that is what we have in our schedule for today.
Are you going to tutor us during the practice, professor?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Remember that the practice is for you to understand everything because I know it's not easy. Sometimes it looks like easy, it's not. But interesting. And remember, we are building vocabulary. And if you have words that you don't understand, that maybe you study with Mortenberg, but you consider they are not important, bring it to the class to see what is the meaning of those things. And then we can discuss. I think we have to finish this very quickly because co-occurrence means what? Let me see how many pages do we have left. Co-occurrence is another aspect of syntactic property, and co-occurrence means what? While the word order of extraction is obviously important for syntactic well-formedness, there is another set of syntactic property that is in a way more basic than word order, yet far less obvious. As soon as you decide on using a particular expression in a sentence, this initial choice can dictate the structure of the rest of the sentence. The expression you choose may allow or even require that certain other expression co-occur with it in a sense. This section examines co-occurring relation between expressions to which language are sensitive. 1. Argument. Many expressions have co-occurring requirements. That is, if they show up in a sentence, certain other expressions are required to occur in a sentence as well. Look at the example with the word devoured. Remember? Devoured. Sally devoured an apple. But if you say Sally devoured, so Sally devoured, the verb devoured, need an option. Need an option. You cannot say Sally devoured because if you say Dali devoured, if you don't have an object here, it's incorrect. Sally, for native English speaker, an object noun phrase, then A, is required to co-occur with devoured. Native speaker expect you to use an object noun phrase to co-occur with the verb. If you don't use an object, then it's ungrammatical. If the occurrence of some expression X in a sentence necessitate the occurrence of some expression Y, then we say that Y is an argument of X. This is a generalization. So the word requires how many arguments? 2 arguments. The object, Apple, and the subject, Sally. So it means that Sally, which is the subject, is an argument. Subject, argument. In English, in grammar, we say subject. In syntax, instead of saying subject, we say argument. Subject, argument. And the other, an apple, is an object. But apple is another argument. The word is what kind of verb? What kind of verb is the word? Well, the word is transitive.
Transitive.
And if we have a transitive verb, we need another argument, which is an apple. An apple is an argument and is necessary information. So when we have an argument here for this verb, what is necessary information, the necessary information in syntax is known as complement. Complement is necessary information. Please write complement in your vocabulary. Complement. Write adjunct in your vocabulary. What else do you need? We need to know argument. So the combination of argument, complement, adjunct, argument, complement, adjunct, we are going to see that in chapter 3 and chapter 5. Okay, now let's see. So if it is required, Apple is an argument, Sally is an argument, the word is a transitive verb, so Apple is a complement. In the current of the alternatively, we say that 10A, Sally and Apple are both argument of the word. Sally and Apple are argument of the word. Non-subject, non-arguments, non-subject argument, in this case the object, are called complements. Complement is necessary information. Complement are necessary information. Thus, we can also say that 10A, an apple, is a complement of the word. That's by an apple, which is an object. It's a complement of the word because it's necessary information for that argument. Even if a language has very flexible word order, it is still sensitive to the co-occurrence requirement of expression. Here we have a Serbo-Croatian example. Maria voli masuki. Maria likes music. Maria likes music. It's a word-by-word correspondence. And then you immediately see that from Tylerman 2005, this is to avoid plagiarism. Okay. Arguments do not have to be noun phrasing like an apple. Different kind of expression require different kind of argument. When we consider complement, we can see that an apple is an acceptable complement for the word, but not for wonder. Since Sally wondered an apple is not a sentence. Sally wondered an apple. Conversely, about Bob is a fine compliment for wonder. Sally wondered Bob. So co-occurrence means that there are words that can co-occur with other, with some verbs and some expression, but there are other that don't. That is co-occurring. For example, Sally told Potty she's leaving. Sally put the book on the table. Put is a verb that needs 2 arguments in this one. Because if I say, Sally put the book on the table. So they need another argument that doing this example, we are going to expand using English example because this Ohio book have examples of other languages. Let me see co-occurrence here. Sally put the book. Theta grid, theta role. The theta grid and theta role talks about, we are going to talk about this more in details in chapter number 2. The next Saturday. Because if I have the verb put, the verb give, how many arguments do you think give needs? The verb give. And give me an example of with the verb give. Let's see the co-occurrence there. Give. Can you give an example? You say the verb give as a sentence.
It needs to, Professor.
No, give. The that.
It needs to. It needs to. I mean, the verb give. And it
give me the example.
Like for
give
example, Maria gave an apple to Juan.
Okay, Maria gave an apple to
Juan.
Interesting. How many arguments do we have? Give. What kind of verb is give? Okay.
Like transitive.
That is intransitive.
Like transitive. So the transitive verb needs the co-occurrence of 2 arguments after the verb. An apple and to John and to Juan. So 2 arguments after the verb. And what is Maria? What is Maria?
It's subject, but it's not subject anymore.
It's an argument.
It's a subject. You can call it subject. It's another argument.
Okay.
So how many arguments do we have there? 1, 2, and 3. 3 arguments.
3 arguments.
That is co-occurrent. And we are going to study that when we study next Saturday, when we study theta role, theta grid, we are going to study what are the importance of theta grid, theta role. Theta role have to do with arguments. Otherwise, and then verbs. There are verbs that do not need, for example, you can say Maria ate. Maria ate is okay. She doesn't need another argument. 1 argument is okay, Maria. But the verb needs an object, need 2 arguments. So argument is important in syntax. Let's see what else we have here. Adjunct. Do you know what is an adjunct? No. Any ideas?
I mean,
because we have
that's extra information given to the object.
Okay, extra information. Example,
they can be added or deleted.
Yeah. You can add small fluffy dogs, small fluffy brown dogs, like here. Those are arguments. And arguments, I mean, adjuncts. Adjuncts in other books are known as modifiers. But in this book, and this Ohio, and this other book, they are known as adjuncts. And while there are this kind of expression called adjunct. Let's see, while there has to be exactly the right number of title argument for each expression in a sentence, there are certain kind of expression whose occurrence in the sentence is purely optional. Okay, purely optional, modifiers, adjuncts. When it's optional, it's an adjunct. When it's necessary information, it's a complement. Not only are they optional, but it is possible to add as many of them. Okay, they are optional, and you can add as many adjuncts as you want, but complement is just one. It's not recursive. It's just one adjunct. I mean, just one complement. And complement is just right next to the verb. Adjuncts, you can put adjuncts and add adjuncts whenever you want. For example, dog is just right to just next to the verb, but then the adjunct you can add. And here we have a chart in which you have argument which are obligatory. Sally seems happy. Seemed is a verb that requires an object, requires another argument. So you cannot say Sally seemed, because seemed requires an object, so 2 arguments. But the cat was sleeping on the table, you can say the cat was sleeping, because on the table is a prepositional phrase, it's an adjunct, it's a modifier. But you can delete that and the sentence still have sense. The fluffy cat was sleeping. You can say the cat was sleeping and then it's optional, action. And then when we are going to represent adjunct and complement an adjunct in a chapter number 6, when we are going to use X-bar theory, we have to represent the adjunct and make a distinction, hierarchically speaking, between adjuncts and complement. We have to clearly see what is an adjunct, what is a complement when we draw trees. That's why I'm making emphasis on this. Agreement. Well, agreement is another syntactic property and is important. Let me see if we have agreement. Okay. Agreement, we mentioned well, there are often strict requirements regarding to the kind of argument and expression. About Bob can have a complement of wonder, but not a complement of the board. And have concept. This is morphologically speaking form the argument. This session we discuss the inflectional morphological form. This inflectional morphological form, which is agreement, we are going to talk about that too, morphologically speaking. Agreement. Let's begin by considering sample 30. Sally likes Bob. I, you, we, they. You cannot say likes. You don't add that clitic here, the S, because it's just with she. And Sandy like, you cannot say Sandy like because you have to add the clitic S. The S means what? What is the meaning of S? Means present, means tense. And then that is agreement. You have to agree. Subject-verb agreement is important, not just in grammar, but also in writing. And that's why you have these examples here. Sandy likes is correct, but this I, you, we, they likes is not correct because there is not an agreement between I, you, we, they with the verb because the verb have an S. That is another important. The subject-verb agreement is important. So we have subject-verb agreement. Agreement. So how many syntactic properties? Word order, co-occurrence, and agreement. And we learn a little bit about constituents, grammaticality judgment, syntactic properties, word order, co-occurrence, agreement, syntactically well-formed, syntactically ill-formed, semantic ill-formed, and what is the symbol for semantic ill-formed? LSA, the Leipzig glossing rule, argument, complement, and adjunct for this first session, which is okay for the first 2 hours or 1 hour and 40 minutes. A lot of things, but still we need more. In chapter number 1, Carney book, we are going to learn more what? Vocabulary. Vocabulary for what? For the rest of the chapters. In such a way that when we speak, syntactically speaking, you understand and you can follow me. The only thing you have to do is to read. Thank you very much for your attention. It's 11:45, so I'm going to give you the 15 minutes for the break that you usually have in between. And then, but now, 9 to 11, 1 to 3. That is officially, right? Or yes. 9 to 12? Yes. 9 to 12. But
9 to 11, 9 to 11, and 1 to 3. And sometimes some professor didn't attend the afternoon session, but gave assignments. So we don't see each other, but then,
but for this session, which is the first session, people, I have to make a combination because I can use that first session is explanation. Second session, practice. But this first chapter, still we need to read with you in such case that you have question. We have to read chapter number 1 together briefly to make the homework together. I'm gonna help you, okay? So
okay.
So
Understandable.
Yeah, because you will see that this language file book from Ohio is different from syntax generative Andrew Carnegie is different. It's heavier, but understandable. Yeah. Then see you at what time? At 1.
Yes, Professor.
Yeah. Same link, Professor. Yes.
This is Google Meet. I don't know. I'm not familiar with Google Meet, but so far it's nice. But I am not familiar. But what can I do? I can close all the window screen and then later go again to the link and it's still open or not? Or it's better to let it open and then.
I'm not sure. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure.
Just maybe